a heartbeat, where there should only be silence. The Arctic is not a wilderness. It is a cathedral of ice, built to entomb the dead. For eons, this white void has been a sanctuary, a realm where the air itself acts as a razor, flaying the skin of anything that lacks the fire of warm blood. Here, the great white bear reigns. The walrus huddles in its iron-thick hide. The orca glides through the black slush like a phantom. They are the ghosts of the frost. They belong to the cold. But the cold has a secret. It is a wall. A barrier. In this frozen silence, the reptile is an impossibility. A violation of the laws of physics. A cold-blooded heart should stop here. It should turn to glass. It should shatter. Until now. Imagine a fever. A sickness seizing the very marrow of the planet. Imagine the great currents of the south, bloated with heat, carving a warm, pulsing vein straight into the throat of the north. The barrier is failing. The wall is crumbling. And through the breach, something is crawling. Something that hasn't seen the sun in a million years. Something that was never meant to breathe this air. This is not a change of seasons. This is a desecration. This is a massacre in the making. Two worlds, separated by epochs of evolution, are about to collide on a single, blood-stained floor. The king is about to meet a god of the mud. Welcome to the cold-blooded invasion. Listen to the water. It doesn't lap against the ice anymore. It moans. Below the surface, in the crushing dark, swims the saltwater crocodile. Crocodiles porosus. A prehistoric machine of hate. It is a ton of muscle wrapped in armored scales that have resisted the bite of time itself. In the steaming swamps of the tropics, they are the undisputed masters of the murk. But here, in the freezing slush of the edgeworld, they are becoming something else. A mutation. A nightmare adapting to a canvas of white. The seal sits on the floe. It is a creature of vigilance. It watches the horizon for the white shadow of the bear. It scans the depths for the dorsal fin of the orca, the hunter that breathes, the hunter that announces itself with a blowhole sigh. The seal knows these enemies. It understands their hunger. But it does not know the gargoyle. It does not see the 20-foot shadow rising from the black abyss. There is no splash. No ripple. The crocodile does not hunt like the mammal. It does not chase. It waits. Like a stone. It is a piece of the darkness that has decided to move. Impact. In the Arctic, death is usually a marathon. A pursuit of exhaustion across the floes. But this is the horror of the ambush. It is sudden. It is violent. It is absolute. One moment, there is the whistling wind. The next, a jaw with the crushing force of a falling mountain snaps shut on bone and blubber. And then comes the death roll. A method of torture perfected over 200 million years. A rotational violence so extreme it liquefies the organs and shreds the spine. The seal is built to outrun the gale, to dive deep into the pressure of the sea. It is not built to wrestle a demon wrapped in obsidian plate. In seconds, the pristine, blinding white of the ice is defiled. A grisly, steaming crime scene in a land that used to be pure. But blood in this water is a siren song. It is a scent that travels for miles on the freezing gale. The slaughter has not gone unnoticed. The landlord has heard the dinner bell. And he does not welcome the intruder. Ursus maritimus. The sea bear. The lonely, starving king of the north. He is a warrior of the wastes. He knows no fear because, in his world, he has no equal. He steps onto the crimson ice, his black nose twitching, his massive paws staining pink. He sees the anomaly. He sees the dark, scaly shape feeding on his subjects. He sees his kingdom being consumed by a stranger from a world of heat. In a balanced world, monsters avoid one another. It is a pact of survival. A mutual understanding of the cost of war. But here, the balance is gone. Hunger has turned into madness. The ice is melting beneath their feet, and there is no room for two kings. This is the ultimate confrontation. Fur against scale. Warm blood against the heart of a stone. The bear towers over the beast, 1,000 pounds of predatory grace. He strikes first, a blow that could decapitate a walrus. But the crocodile is a tank. The claws of the bear, sharp as hooks, scrape against the armored hide, leaving only white streaks on the black bone. The bear lunges, his jaws clamping onto the crocodile's neck, seeking the life vein. But the teeth shatter. The crocodile is not flesh. It is a living fossil. It thrashes, its tail a 6-foot sledgehammer of pure muscle, whipping around to shatter the bear's hind legs with a sound like a tree snapping in a storm. The bear screams. A sound that has no place in the silence of the pole. He tries to drag the reptile into the light, to flip it, to find the soft underbelly. But the crocodile is patient. It has all the time in the world. It drags the king toward the edge. Toward the water. This is the fatal error. On the ice, the bear is a titan. But in the water, the crocodile is the executioner. The bear's heavy coat, the very armor that allowed him to conquer the frost, now becomes his anchor. It soaks up the freezing brine, pulling him down. The crocodile spins. The roll begins again. The water turns into a whirlpool of fur and scales, of bubbles and blood. The old king falls. A new tyrant ascends the throne of ice. But the invasion is not just a duel between giants. It is a contagion. A spreading rot. Further down the coast, the walrus herds huddle together. They rely on the power of the group, a fortress of tusks and sheer mass. They have no defenses against a phantom that strikes from the shoreline under the cover of the mist. The crocodiles do not just kill to eat, they infest. They claim the beaches. They steal the sanctuary. Driven from their resting grounds, the walruses are forced into the endless, open ocean. They swim until their hearts give out. They drown in the fatigue of a world that no longer has a place for them. No rest. No future. Only the deep. And then, there are the narwhals. The unicorns of the sea. The myths of the Arctic. For them, the ice was always a shield. A labyrinth where they could hide from the orca. But now, the ice is a trap. The breathing holes, those tiny windows of life in a ceiling of frozen glass, have become narrow coffins. The crocodile knows this. It does not need to roam the ocean. It simply waits at the hole. It becomes the gatekeeper of the air. When the narwhal rises, desperate for a gasp of oxygen, it finds not the sky, but the serrated teeth of the abyss. The narwhal's tusk is a sensor, a delicate instrument of the deep. It is useless in a brawl against an armored assault. One by one, the myths are extinguished. This is the collapse. With the guardians dead, the clock begins to turn backward. The balance rots. Without the predators to cull the weak, the systems fail. The waters, once crystal and sharp, begin to choke with the remnants of the dead. Algae blooms in the unnatural warmth, turning the sea into a thick, poisonous soup. The pure, white Arctic is being stained. Not just with blood, but with the stench of decay. But the crocodile has one enemy left. An enemy it cannot bite. An enemy it cannot drown. The winter. The tilt of the earth is a cruel judge. The sun, which fed the warm currents, begins its long retreat. The eternal night begins to swallow the pole. The temperature drops, falling past the point of endurance. Physics cannot be cheated forever. Even with a world in flames, a cold-blooded monster is a slave to the environment. As the mercury plunges, the crocodile's pulse begins to falter. Its movements become heavy, sluggish. The very blood in its veins begins to turn to sludge. The frost should erase them. The ice should take back its kingdom and bury the invaders in a shroud of white. But evil. Evil has a way of persisting. They do not die. They do not surrender. They wait. As the ice closes in, the crocodiles sink to the bottom. They cluster together in the muck of the seabed, a writhing, silent mass of scales and slowed hearts. They bury themselves in the silt, huddled like a mass grave in the dark. They enter a state beyond sleep. A biological suspension. They become statues in the deep. Cold. Hard. Waiting. They are waiting for the first touch of the spring sun. They are waiting for the next pulse of warm water to find them. They are waiting for us. The ice will melt again. It will melt faster than it did before. And when it does, the nightmare will not just awaken, it will be hungry. The Arctic we knew is a memory. A ghost story we tell to children. The age of the mammal, the age of the warm-blooded, is finishing its final chapter. We look at the north and see a wasteland, but the monsters, they see a frontier. If the world continues to burn, if the waters continue to rise, this vision will not remain a fantasy. It will become our reality. The boundaries of nature are being erased, and something ancient is stepping through the gaps. The question isn't if the monsters are coming. Look at the water. Look at the shadows beneath the ice. They are already here. And they are very, very patient.